Paper's Corner. After 24 meritorious and tumultuous years on the bench, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall is stepping down. The combination of age, failing health, the court's increasingly conservative makeup, and the unlikelihood of a Democrat getting elected president anytime soon has forced Marshall's hand. And already black America is being insulted by those who insist President Bush reject race as one criteria for naming a successor, as if to say black America would have no concern about the qualifications of a black jurist. To think that Mr. Bush would not appoint some variation of a conservative would be folly, but not the notion of a so-called black conservative who would hopefully have the same freedom as his contemporaries or her contemporaries to make valid decisions even if they go against the grain of White House philosophy.
Hey, this one is.
Hi, Sid. How are you?
Hey, buddy.
Stop writing about me in the old paper.
I will continue to do that.
Uh-huh.
Now, look, what you just were talking about whether or not there was something intervening, would that, do anything to the murder charge? Now, it turns out that if Hines, by the way, is now investigating. Did he announce that publicly? I think he did. The DA's office is investigating this, I guess, for possible charges of criminal negligent homicide.
In the Kings County.
Yeah, in the Kings County.
Right.
Now, if it happened that there was such an indictment, suppose there was a criminal negligent homicide indictment against whatever, the doctors, that would blow the murder charge. It would be attempted murder.
Okay. My point was we have no evidence of that.
Oh, no, I'm saying, but you were just talking to some guy saying it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I thought that too, but I checked it out. I was surprised to find that, it would do something to it if there was an intervening crime, not an intervening act of
Right.
order.
As things stand now, it looks like we have a criminal case and a civil case.
Well, right now, right. I mean, but he just announced an investigation, so you don't know what will happen. I have no idea of what the real facts are. It's interesting that, they never do investigate. They don't even investigate things like this from a criminal angle when it happens in a hospital. And, I have my own interest in that kind of thing.
Sure.
But certainly, when people say, let's investigate if there's an accident on a street corner with a car, no one thinks to do it when it happens in a hospital. But we do know that there are acts of such gross negligence that if there were investigations, they might well turn out to be crimes. Only doctors seem to be exempt from that, though they're not by statute.
Well,
so
I was
it's interesting that he's going after it at all, even.
Sid, I was interested. We had the Kildare Clark, the associate director of the emergency room, on here, and I was surprised at how openly he acknowledged negligence in the emergency room and the failure to detect the second wound.
Yeah.
And he did acknowledge that publicly, and he's been on television doing that. So I suspect there's not going to be the kind of cover-up that we often see on a lot of occasions here. And to my mind, I haven't seen any evidence at all that there was some kind of criminal activity going on. It looks like a screw-up in the, as you have uncovered so many times, in the hospital itself.
Yeah, I'm not judging that at all, but I mean, it is interesting that the district attorney is, investigating you from that angle. That you never see. Now, criminal negligence might have been in the accident itself too, and it almost was. So that's a touchy point that they've never applied to the medical profession. But if it goes beyond negligence and it's a real gross negligence, and that could be more than a screw up. In other words, the hospital itself could be indicted. If, say, they didn't set up the right procedures and should have known and had the wrong people there, didn't have attending physicians, that sort of thing, and were warned in advance or knew of previous conditions, that kind of thing could raise to the level of a crime. I'm not at all saying it does. I don't know about it.
We'll have to wait and see.
Anyway, I just
Sid,
wanted to let
thank
you know.
Thank you for calling, and remind our listeners that Sid Zion can be read in the New York Observer.
Is purely symbolic since there are no blacks in the Senate, and they won't be able to vote directly to confirm or deny the Thomas nomination. Republican Senator John Danforth, a strong Thomas supporter, accused the black House members of playing race politics. One of the great names in horse racing has fallen on hard times. The story from Beth Merrill at information affiliate WHAS in Louisville.
One of the nation's top breeding and racing farms has filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Calumet Farm and Calumet Limited Partnership list debts of over $125 million in their request for bankruptcy court protection filed in Lexington. Calumet Farm has asked the court to allow them to operate during the reorganization, and company officials say they hope this will allow them to continue a Kentucky tradition. Calumet Farm has produced 8 Derby winners. Whirl Away and Citation both won the Triple Crown. Beth Merrill for ABC News, Louisville, Kentucky.
The Aluminum Company of America, Alcoa, has agreed to pay $3.75 million to the state of New York in what's described as the biggest plea bargain assessment yet for a hazardous waste violation. It involves its plant in Messina, New York. This is ABC News.
Hello, this is Alex Trebek for Choice Magazine Listening, a free service of the nonprofit Lucerna Fund. If you're unable to read because of blindness or other handicap, Choice Magazine Listening will send you on 4-track cassettes selections from leading magazines. So for 8 hours of memorable writing every other month, completely free of charge, write Listening, Box 10, Port Washington, New York, 11050, or call 516-883-8280. Thank you.
And now, a WABC Health News Minute with Carol Ann Stripple of the Johns Hopkins Medical Center.
A summertime tan is still a must for many people, but getting that tan has become difficult, with doctors advising avoiding the sun's rays. Self-tanning lotions used to turn some people more orange than tan, but the new lotions now available give a more acceptable color. Dr. Warwick Morrison at Johns Hopkins says the active ingredient in those lotions, dihydroxyacetone, oxidizes on the skin, causing a color change.
I've no objection to people using them, just as long as they don't think that they've got a tan and go out in the sun and think they're protected, because dihydroxyacetone does not protect you from sunlight exposure. It just puts a brownish yellow color on the skin.
Dr. Morrison says the only drawback to these lotions is they must be reapplied every few days. For WABC, I'm Carol Ann Stripple at Johns Hopkins.
Hiya, folks. Rush Limbaugh. Here's a date you want to mark on your calendar today, Sunday, September 15th. Why, you ask? Because, my friends, that's the day when I and other luminaries will roast Bob Grant, a day that will live in infamy. You want to be there, and you should. Here's a number to call, 201-783-0003 for details.
Conference they had on racism at the Daily News today. You know, I wish it would work. But one way they can possibly really make it work is stop, unless it's a positive story, but all these negative stories, stop putting a section of town like Williamsburg or Crown Heights or Bed-Stuy or Harlem or Bensonhurst. Oh, just put the borough and the address when something bad happens. When something positive happens, then you can put Williamsburg or Bensonhurst or something like that. Because people, I know I do. When I see something in Bensonhurst, I think Italians. When I see something in Bed-Stuy, I say blacks. You know what I mean?
Hey, Bill, I think you're telling us more about your problem than anything. Wait a minute, just listen to me. For the 30 years I've been... Wait a minute, Bill, let me respond to you, because I think you're all wet. And then you can tell me you're not all wet, all right?
Yeah.
For the past 30 years since I've been in this business, people have been coming up to me and telling me that they want to hear less news. You put less news in the paper, I don't know what are you going to buy the paper for. I think you as a voter, I think you as a citizen need to know exactly who, what, where, why, when, and how, if possible.
I do. I want the address and the borough, but I don't want the section of town. Because certain people live in certain sections of town, Dick, and it's very, very bad.
You're still all wet. I'll tell you why you're all wet. Because if you do have an outbreak of racial violence in a particular area, you need to know about it, so the politicians know about it, so they get some...
it happened on Eastern Parkway and President
Oh, that's going to solve the problem, huh, Bill? I think you're unbelievable. You're unbelievable.
Like that.
Yeah, Bensonhurst, Crown Heights, Howard Beach. We need to know where these things are happening so we can respond to them. And I don't think you want to walk around ignorant. You say you do, but I don't believe you do. Thank you, Bill. 212-398-9404. Lloyd in Queens, you're on WOR.
Yeah, hi, Dick. Concerning Yankel Rosenbaum, I don't know if you heard Barry Gray last night, but there was a call from a man who said it was he that had stayed up through the night with Yankel Rosenbaum in Kings County Hospital, and according to what he said, it was the doctors who, and I quote, allowed Yankel Rosenbaum to die, and that his second wound was not small, as has been reported, but large and gaping, with Rosenbaum's organs hanging out. He thought it was his liver, and he said it was impossible to overlook. In other words, it was allowed to be neglected, and that the emergency room traffic was light. I'm hoping Barry Gray is going to follow up on this new evidence.
Did this informant identify himself?
Barry was interviewing a rabbi, and this rabbi knew this person very well.
You got to come forward. You can't have sneaky people without identities.
Well, he said it was him.
We had the director of the emergency room on, who acknowledges that the second wound was not discovered. Now, if some anonymous guy comes on and says that it was a big gaping wound, Mayor Dinkins didn't see the big gaping wound, by the way. And he spent some time with them. There are an awful lot of people out there who are trying to stir up trouble, and I think we ought to wait for your official investigations. At this point, we have the emergency room personnel themselves acknowledging that there was negligence in what happened here. And I might point out, for those who tend to look at race and ethnic background, that the attending physicians in this case were white.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you.